Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to another One Punch Man video. So today's One Punch Man video is going to be all about buff gears. Everything you need to know and all the questions you have about buff gears should be covered by the end of this video. But before I begin, I of course would like to give a shout out to all the members who have joined my channel. Thank you so much for becoming a member. These One Punch Man guides do take a lot of my time and effort to make, so your additional support greatly motivates me to continue producing my content. And of course, don't forget to join my Discord server if you want to come and hang out with the rest of the community. Alright, let's begin. Let's start off with an introduction. So what exactly are buff gears? Well, buff gears are additional gears that boost the stats of your existing gears, exclusive items, and other buff gears. So for example, a buff gear with 20% attack as the main stat, just like the one in the picture to the right, will boost the stats of your existing gears, exclusive items, and other buff gears with the attack stat by 20%. This is to be noted that the boost will only affect the substats of the other buff gears, not the main stat. I actually did a test on the Southeast Asia server using defense buff gears, and the only time my BP went up was if I had defense as one of the substats in the buff gears. And next, we have 3 available main stats in the form of attack percent, HP percent, and defense percent. And of course, based on the information from before, you can already tell that defense percent is going to be completely useless. Therefore, all your defense percent buff gear can be trashed. Now comes the question of where do I get buff gears from? And buff gears can be obtained from Nightmare Conqueror's Challenge, and the farming cost will be 10 vitality if you are teaming up with someone, or 12 vitality if you plan on going solo. If possible, I'd recommend you guys to try and find a partner for Nightmare Conqueror's Challenge, as this can save a lot of vitality for you guys in the long run. And last, orange grade buff gears start dropping on floor 10. I highly recommend you guys to only farm Nightmare Conqueror's Challenge if you can consistently clear at least floor 10. Otherwise, just spend all of your vitality farming Talent Perfection until you are strong enough to tackle at least floor 10 of Nightmare Conqueror's Challenge. Next, we get into faction buff gears. So there are only 2 kinds of faction buff gears, and they'll be hero and villain. Martial artists will use hero faction buff gears, and outlaws will use villain faction buff gears. And the substats available for this type of buff gear are flat defense, defense percent, flat HP, HP percent, flat attack, attack percent, speed percent, surprisingly enough, and enemy defense reduction, which is something new. Basically what it means is you reduce the opponent's defense. And you guys might have noticed that I have color-coded or highlighted some of the stats. The ones highlighted in yellow are substats that are worth keeping, or at least settling for. And the substats highlighted in green are worth locking, which we will get into much later in the PowerPoint. So just make sure you guys remember this color code for the upcoming slides I'm about to show you guys. Okay, moving on. Next, we have type buff gears. And there are 4 kinds of type buff gears: Grappler, Esper, Duelist, and High Tech. And the substats available for the type buff gears are flat attack, flat HP, flat defense, enemy defense reduction again, crit rate percent, block rate percent, hit percent, and resist percent. Once again, as a friendly reminder, I have some of the substats color-coded for the ones you want to keep or settle for, and the ones that you want to lock. Now we go into level buff gears. And level buff gears are divided into S through C class for heroes, Dragon through Tiger for monsters, and Special for martial artists and outlaws. C and B class as well as Tiger level buff gears can be trashed unless you're that one person in my server that's using Kombu or plans on max investing into Kombu. I guess you can keep 1 or 2 good Tiger level buff gears for him. Other than that, the rest are completely worthless, as there aren't any upcoming characters that will be using these type of level buff gears. And the substats available for level buff gears are flat attack, flat HP, flat defense, enemy defense reduction, augment skills, which are really rare to obtain, so if you get one, consider yourself really lucky, damage rate percent, damage reduction rate percent, bonus damage percent, and of course, bonus damage reduction rate percent. And of course, last friendly reminder, I have these substats color-coded. In yellow, those are the substats you want to keep or settle for, and the ones color-coded in green are the ones you want to lock. Okay, now let's actually talk about some of these rare augments that you can obtain. There is a total of 10 augments, and they're all extremely rare to obtain from level buff gears. The first one we will talk about is the basic attack augmentation. which will deal an additional 10 to 60% of your attack damage as extra damage while using your normal attack. This augment is good on basically any unit that can perform a follow-up attack, because I'm pretty sure this augment not only works on basic attack, but on follow-up attacks as well. So characters such as Beast King, Garou, Atomic Samurai, and even Metal Bat can use this augment fairly well. Next, we have the Tenacity augmentation. So when you're taking damage with a Tenacity shield, you'll heal back 10 to 60% of the damage done to your shield. This augment is particularly good on units that can generate a Tenacity shield, examples being Silver Fang, Tank Top Master, Alloy, and G4. And finally, we have Reflect augmentation. For this augment, when you have a Reflect buff on your unit, this usually comes from your suit set, or if you're using DSK Core 1, or if you have the talent node unlocked for damage reflection, this will reflect an additional 8 to 48% of your attack damage as extra damage. Now, I'm not sure if this actually works with Carnage Kabuto's passive. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I could be wrong. If anyone actually has confirmation, please let me know in the comments below. But if we're not counting Carnage Kabuto, the recommended units for this particular augment will be anything that has high attack and is wearing a suit set, such as Zombie Man or the upcoming character Phoenix Man, because this augment scales off attack rather than your max HP. Alright, continuing on with even more augments. Next, we have the Berserk augmentation. When in the Berserk state, receive a 3 to 18% attack buff before your action. So the only recommended units I have for this augment are units that are next to your Child Emperor after he's performed his action, or if you're using Bakuzan Core or the upcoming Gero Gero Core. Next, we have the Block augmentation. This augment will heal you for 10 to 60% of the damage dealt, reduced by block. This augment is useful on pretty much every unit, because there's always a chance for any of your units to block during a battle. But this augment is particularly useful, especially if you have Silver Fang. Alright, let's dive into the Crit augmentation. Deals additional damage equal to 10 to 60% of the increase in damage from dealing a critical hit. And this augment is good on any DPS with a high crit rate, such as Terrible Tornado, Goketsu, or Watchdog Man, if you have enough crit rate built on any of those characters. Next, we're going to talk about the Burn augmentation. Burn damage dealt by this unit will deal splash damage of 5 to 30% of the burn damage to surrounding units. I'm not really a big fan of this augment, as there aren't that many good units that have burn as a debuff. The only ones I can think off the top of my head are Vaccine Man and the upcoming character Phoenix Man. And in general, burn is just a really weak DOT. I'd much rather use Corrode or Field as a DOT debuff. Next, we have the Internal Injury augmentation. Internal injury damage dealt by this unit will deal splash damage of 5 to 30% of the internal injury damage to surrounding units. All I have to say is Garou. That's pretty much the only character that will ever use this augment to its full potential. Oh, and I guess Gale Wind, but that's like really far in the future, so don't worry about that too much. Alright, now we're going to talk about the Lifesteal augmentation. When in the Draining state, which currently is only obtainable through Talent Node, the first page of Talents, receive a 3 to 18% attack buff before your action. Red Mosquito Girl, which is a upcoming character, can obtain the Draining state when casting her ultimate, so she can use this augment fairly well. And the only characters that I'm aware of that have the talent node for Draining state at the moment are Beast King, Carnage Kabuto, and Boros. There are probably others, but those are the only ones I've built as of right now. And last, we have the Unyielding augmentation. After all chances of unyielding are used up, grants Tenacity Shield to self. This is obviously good on any unit with unyielding, such as Watchdog Man, Alloy, and Garou. Okay, moving on. Next, we're going to talk about buff gear enhancing, and you can have a max of 5 substats per buff gear. You also can only have a max of 3 substats of the same type. For example, you can only have 3 attack stats being either flat attack or attack percentage. And these substats can be reset and replaced with new ones at the cost of gems, which we will talk about in the upcoming slides. And substats highlighted in yellow or orange, you guys might have noticed this already if you've gotten any of these buff gears, are permanent stats that cannot be reset. And last but not least, ascension costs are similar to exclusive items. If you take a look at the picture to the right at the bottom, ascension costs star ascension cards and the 2 materials that I forgot the name of that you use in your exclusive gears, keepsakes, and insignias. Now we get into buff gear resetting, the most painful part of buff gears. As of right now, if you guys plan on resetting any of your buff gears, I would highly recommend you guys fully reset your buff gears because the resources that we use currently are fairly scarce. Later on, when the resources become more abundant, you can consider doing a partial reset instead. So, for the first reset cost, it's going to cost you 30 gems for a partial reset or 54 gems for a full reset. The second reset cost will cost you 75 gems partial or 135 gems if you plan on fully resetting. The third reset cost will cost you 200 gems for a partial reset or 360 gems for a full reset. And finally, for the fourth and anything beyond that, the reset cost will be 300 gems for partial and a whopping 540 gems for a full reset. And once again, I've color-coded this page for everyone's reference. Everything in green is recommended for free-to-play, so if you're free-to-play, I recommend you stopping after the second reset cost. Everything highlighted in yellow is for small to mid spenders, so once you've reset it after the third time, I recommend you guys stop. And finally, everything highlighted in red is for the whales. Basically, you can reset as many times as you want until your wallet drops. Next, I would avoid resetting buff gears that have 2 or less bad substats. And last, reset only orange grade buff gears, and instead dismantle all lower grade enhanced buff gears for materials. So what I'm saying basically is if you have blue or purple enhanced buff gears already, just hold on to them for now and dismantle them later when you have obtained orange grade buff gears. And finally, we are going to talk about buff gear locks. So the picture to the left is a picture of the locks that you can buy from the shop for 200 gems each, 5 times per week, totaling a total of 1,000 gems per week. And the picture to the right are locks that you can buy from the Dojo class shop, which is a future PvP mode that will be introduced later on, 5 times per week for a total of 500 Dojo currency. I forgot whatever the name of that currency is. And locks are used to prevent certain substats from being replaced, and you can only lock a maximum of 2 substats per buff gear. Unfortunately, locks are currently unavailable for purchase with either gems or top-up on the global server. I looked through the entire global shop, through the dailies, through the packs, everything. I could not find anywhere in the entire shop where you can purchase locks. I might be blind. If you guys have seen it in the shop, let me know in the comments below. But as of right now, there's actually no way to obtain locks in the global server. Other than that one $10 thing that you could buy the Watchdog Man icon for, there were 2 locks on that. But other than that, I could not find locks anywhere in the shop. So please let me know in the comments below if you guys have seen it. Hopefully, locks will be added into the shop eventually in the near future, but once again, this game is run by Moonton, so my expectations aren't that high. And finally, the cost of locking 1 substat is 2 locks, and the cost of locking 2 substats is a total of 6 locks. Okay guys, well that's going to be it for this One Punch Man video. Once again, if you guys have any questions or have anything to add, please let me know in the comments below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, or join if you wish to support this channel even further. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next One Punch Man video. Peace!